Let's talk about the new TSA security measures that will be coming to an airport near you very soon. There are 5 major changes that are occurring, and I know you're probably thinking, I have no plans on going on an airplane, but I don't see these changes going anywhere anytime soon. In all likelihood, they're going to be around for at least a year or maybe even 2. So these are some things you're going to want to know about and be ready for. It will change your check-in procedure. When the TSA Administrator, David Pekoski, was asked about this, he said, in the interest of TSA frontline workers and travelers' health, the TSA is committed to making prudent changes to our screening procedures to limit physical contact and increase physical distance as much as possible. And so they did. On this episode, I'm going to bring you the 5 major changes that they just made. Also, I'm going to bring you a 6th change that they didn't announce, but in all likelihood will occur, and it'll probably be the biggest change of all. And so you want to be ready for that one. I'm going to announce that one at the end of the video. So I'm going to keep you waiting on that one. It'll be the biggest change. So let's go ahead and do this. Security change number 1. You ready? Passengers will keep possession of their boarding passes rather than handing them to a screener. Passengers will be asked to place the passes on the barcode scanner themselves and to hold them up for screeners to read. I like this change. This is a good one. You know how usually you come in with your passport or your ID and you got to hand them over to the person, and then they look at them and they scrutinize you like you're like the biggest security threat ever in the world, and you get kind of scared and worried about it, but then eventually they give it back to you. Well, no longer do you have to hand that over to them anymore. You just show it to them, and then if you had to put the barcode screener and you do that, that is a good change. Makes a lot of sense. I like that one. Nothing bad to say about that change. Good job, TSA. Security change number 2. People traveling with food should place it into a plastic bag. Then you will put it in a separate bin before it goes through the X-ray machine. So if you're going to have any food at all, you need to put it in its own separate plastic bag. According to the TSA, food items often trigger an alarm during the screening process, and separating the food items from the carry-on bag lessens the likelihood that TSA officers will need to open the carry-on bag and remove the food items. So basically, they don't want to touch your stuff as much. I like it. If there's a TSA officer not touching my stuff as much, that's a good thing in my book. But before you go to the airport, you better remember to put any and all food items in separate plastic bags now, and be prepared to take those bags and put them into a separate bin. It's an extra step you're going to have to take and be ready for. So this is why this stuff is important. So now on to TSA security change number 3. Passengers can continue to take up 12 ounces of hand sanitizer through checkpoints. Other liquids are still restricted to 3 to 4 ounces. That's not actually new. This is the new part. If a bag is found to contain a prohibited item, passengers may be sent outside of security with their bag to dispose of the item instead of opening their bag and having it inspected by a screener. This is to reduce contact between screeners and bag's contents. So a couple things here. Number 1, I still think it's ridiculous that you can take on 12 ounces of highly flammable hand sanitizer, but not a bottle of water. That's called a dog and pony show, in which they're trying to say, hey, look, we care about your health, but also we're serious about security. It doesn't make any common sense, but you and I already know that. The new part here, though, they're going to make you just dispose of it on your own and not check it and screen it themselves. You know, whatever. I'm fine with that. Obviously, you're going to be throwing out some stuff that is probably not really a security threat, but basically they're just not going to look at it. So that's change number 3. Security change number 4. The TSA will ask passengers to practice social distancing while in line for security, and will start making appropriate spacing on the floor as well as staggering checkpoints where possible. Now, I know everyone out there is getting used to this, all of those little checkpoints on the floor that are distancing you out 6 feet. So 6 feet apart on the TSA security check-in line, and 2 feet apart when you're sitting next to somebody on the airplane. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what they're doing. Also, if they do institute a 6-foot procedure on the TSA security check-in line, when airlines start to increase their capacity again, the lines are going to be a mile long. If they actually stick to this, Most airports are not built for this. So I'm wondering what this is going to look like and how long that can actually last. So this lacks a little bit of common sense when you think about the fact that you're going to sit next to somebody on an airplane for a long time and you're only going to be 2 feet away from them, but you got to be 6 feet from somebody on a line. And also the airlines, I don't think they can handle it. All right, now on to security change number 5. Passengers are encouraged to wear facial coverings while in the airport and at security. Passengers may need to briefly pull it down to be identified at the screening checkpoint. U.S. airlines are requiring passengers to wear masks while on board. So keep in mind, you will need to be wearing a mask while you're on the airplane, and they are going to ask you to please wear a mask while you're in the airport itself, but you may need to pull it down to identify yourself. I actually think that this is fairly foolish, to be honest with you. If you ask most doctors, the major problem that they have with people wearing masks, now masks are overwhelmingly good. They can protect you and other people. The big problem with them is it causes people to touch their face area quite often, and that's an issue. You never want to touch your face area with your hands while you're wearing a mask. Once you put it on, you leave it on and you don't touch it until you take it off carefully. If you have, say, 500,000 people going through airport security, and every single one of them has to pull down their mask to show their face. Now you have 500,000 people putting their fingers next to their mouth. You're basically asking for problems. I would think that a medical professional should look at this and perhaps come up with a different way to handle this issue. I don't think it's really good. Also, like I said, keep in mind, if you do go on an airplane, they are going to require you to wear the mask the entire time. Now, the airlines have said if individuals take their mask off during a flight, they are not going to divert the flight or land it somewhere else or cause a big problem about it, but they will address it with you after the flight is over. So it's possible you can lose flight privileges later on if you don't abide by that rule. And just so you know, most new airplanes have a 50-50 mix of recirculated air and fresh air that's pulled in from the engine. So as you're breathing in the cabin air, you are breathing in recirculated air that's going throughout that entire cabin. So you're probably going to want to wear a mask anyway, because if somebody's got something, it's going to make its way through the entire cabin. So these are the 5 major changes, but these are not the only changes you're going to see, because there's some other ones that the TSA noted that you need to be ready for. Here are the other changes you will notice. There will be reduced security lane usage due to the reduction in passenger volume. That's a nice one. All TSA officers at checkpoints will be wearing masks and gloves. TSA officers will optionally be wearing eye protection and clear plastic face shields at some locations. TSA officers will continue the practice of changing gloves after each pat-down. This is, by the way, ridiculous. Just so you know, think about all the stuff a TSA agent touches after the pat-down. All the luggage items and the guardrails and all the different things. So they're going to be going around and touching a whole bunch of stuff, and then they're going to pull you aside to give you a pat-down. But don't worry about it, because once they're done patting you down, then they're going to change their gloves. My suggestion to you is, if you are ever put in that position, that you kindly ask the TSA officer to change their gloves before they pat you down, because whatever they were touching before that, they will put all over you. This makes no sense. If they wanted to be serious about health, they need to change their gloves both before and after pat downs. So that is one that I would like to see them change, and one that you should ask and request for them to do if they ever ask to pat you down. Also, plastic shielding is going to be installed at many travel document checking podiums, bag search, and drop-off locations, like the many shields that you're seeing already in a lot of different locations like grocery stores. The TSA officers are going to be practicing social distancing. Finally, isn't this a good one? It took coronavirus COVID-19 to get these TSA officers to practice social distancing from the passengers. I like that one. And routine cleaning and disinfecting of frequently touched surfaces in the screening and checkpoint area. So there's going to be a lot more cleaning going on. So these are the major changes, but I haven't given you the one that is likely to happen and to be the biggest one of all. So as airline passengers, we're already used to all these different screening machines and procedures, like the metal detector and the x-ray machines and the wand. You have the dogs walking around and the puffing machine that can actually sense if there's any explosive material on somebody. but it looks like they're going to be adding another screening machine that you're going to have to deal with. Now, this is not a definite yet. The TSA agents did not fully announce this as a thing that's going to happen, but it's almost certainly going to happen. So what are you going to have to deal with now? It is a temperature screening machine. And the way it's going to work is you're walking through security. If your temperature is too high, they haven't dictated what that temperature is going to be. Is it going to be 100.4 in that range? But if it's too high, they will not let you fly on that day, which is kind of crazy because you could get fully ready for your flight, plan out a vacation over a year in advance, and you walk in and you're a little hot, you're a little sweaty, you're not feeling well, and if your temperature's up, you are not getting on that plane. This is going to cause a lot of problems. But here's the thing. That sort of screening machine is almost always useless if you know how to get by it. Now, you're watching this channel, so I guess I'm just going to tell you how to get by it, but maybe you don't want everyone to know this because people can do this, but if you just take a couple of ibuprofen before you go to the airline, it will cut your temperature down and you will easily be able to get past a temperature screening machine. And this is something that a lot of experts have brought up. They're not really that good. So if you have a fever and you want to get through it, that's the way you can. I'm not trying to tell people who are sick and stuff, there are ways to get past the system. I'm just telling you a lot of people are going to be doing that because they're going to be so scared of having a high temperature and they need to catch their flight. So I don't really think that is going to be a useful one, but it is one that you will likely need to be prepared for. So I hope you guys found this information useful, that you'll put it in your checklist, maybe save this video if you're ever planning on going on a flight so you can check back in with all this information. As always, if you like the content here, consider subscribing to the channel. We would love to have you come along with us. We will catch you guys next time.